My name is Emily, and it all started when I moved to a small town called Harpersville. The place was quiet and cozy, perfect for a fresh start after my divorce. I found a job at a local school where I worked as an English teacher. Life started to get better until one day I noticed something strange. Returning home after work, I noticed a man standing on the opposite side of the street. He was looking straight at me, but when I tried to get closer, he disappeared into the crowd. A feeling of anxiety came over me, but I tried to convince myself that it was just a coincidence. The next morning, when I woke up, I felt that something was wrong. The window in my bedroom was slightly open, although I definitely remembered closing it before going to bed. I checked the doors and windows in the house, but everything looked in place. However, this did not relieve my anxiety. A few days later, I started receiving calls from an unknown number. No one spoke, only silence on the other end of the line. This happened several times a day, and each time I felt a chill on my skin. I tried to block the number, but the calls continued from another. One morning, I noticed that my neighbor George did not go out for a walk with his dog as usual. This was surprising as he never missed his morning ritual. When I tried to call him, the phone was switched off. Anxiety began to increase. The same day, I found a letter in my mailbox. There was only one word in it. They are investigating. I got scared and decided to go to the police. They said they would check the situation, but found nothing suspicious. I began to feel that I was losing my mind. During the night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps on the floor below. My heart beat faster when I realized that someone was home. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, trying to stay calm. The police arrived quickly, but again found no signs of a break-in. The next day, I decided to install CCTV cameras around the house. In the evening, while reviewing the records, I saw him, the same man I saw on the street. He was standing by my window, looking in, and suddenly he disappeared into the darkness. I began to lose sleep and appetite. My world revolved around fear and paranoia. Every day turned into a struggle for survival. The police couldn't find any evidence, and I started to feel completely alone. One morning, I found a box on my doorstep. Opening it, I found the lock from my door inside. My heart stopped when I realized that someone had access to my house. I called the police, but again, there was nothing they could do. My friend Sarah advised me to see a psychologist. I agreed, hoping that it would help me find peace again. The psychologist suggested that I keep a diary to keep track of all suspicious events. I started writing down every step and every feeling. At work, I met a new teacher named Michael. He was kind and considerate, and I felt I could trust him. After telling him about my fears, I felt relieved. He promised to help me and be there if anything happened. One evening, on my way home, I noticed that a car was following me. The driver tried to remain invisible, but I felt his presence. I called Michael, and he suggested we meet at a nearby cafe. The car disappeared as soon as I turned into a crowded place. Michael became a support for me, but I began to suspect that he might be connected with this horror. He knew too many details and always appeared at the right moment. My paranoia grew, and I didn't know who to trust. I started having nightmares about the man who was stalking me. He appeared in every dream, always closer and closer. My mind began to blur the lines between dream and reality. I could no longer distinguish between what was true and what was not. One day, while cleaning the house, I found an old letter under the sofa. It was written by George, my missing neighbor. The letter was unfinished, but in it he mentioned a man who had been following him. I realized that this could be the key to the solution. I decided to find out more about George's disappearance. After contacting his relatives, I learned that he also received threats and calls from unknown numbers. The police thought he had just disappeared, but I knew he hadn't. Finding his diary in George's apartment, I read every page. He described his fears and suspicions and also mentioned the strange events that happened around him. It was the same man who was chasing me. I began to lose control of my life. Every little thing seemed like a threat, and I could feel the man getting closer. I decided to change the locks and increase the security of the house, but it did not help me feel safe. My last chance for salvation was connected with Michael. I asked him to help me sort through George's diary and find some clues. We decided to meet in the evening at his house to plan the next course of action. When I arrived at Michael's house, he was already waiting for me with a smile on his face. We began looking through Georges' journal, trying to find any clues that might lead us to the man who was stalking me. Michael turned out to be very attentive and focused, and I began to trust him again. We found several drawings in the diary. They were strange and looked like children's doodles, but one of them immediately caught our attention. It was a picture of a house very similar to mine. I began to feel that the connection between me and George was deeper than I thought. Michael mentioned that he had heard about missing people in Harpersville before I arrived. He offered to learn more about the history of the town and find possible connections between the disappearances. We decided to meet with a local historian who could tell us more. The next day we met with Mr. Henry, the local historian. He told us about an old legend related to a serial killer who terrorized the city many years ago. According to legend, the killer was never caught, and his identity remained a mystery. Mr. Henry showed us an old portrait found in one of the abandoned houses. It depicted a man with a creepy smile. I felt a chill down my spine as I realized that this was the same man who was stalking me now. We decided to ask the police to review the old disappearance cases. However, when we got to the police station, it turned out that all the missing person files were gone. It was suspicious, and we realized that someone was trying to hide the truth. My trust in Michael began to waver again. He was too active in helping me, and I began to suspect that he might be somehow involved in all this. I decided to watch him and find out if he can be trusted. One night, I heard a rustling outside my window. Coming closer, I saw the silhouette of a man. He tried to open the window, and without hesitation, I escaped through the back door. I ran to Michael's house, trying to find shelter. Arriving at Michael's house, I saw that he was clearly surprised by my unexpected visit. I told him about the man by the window, and he offered to stay with him for the night. During my walk through the house, I came across a locked door in the basement. When Michael went outside, I decided to investigate the locked door. They led to the basement, where I found old newspapers and photographs of missing people, including George. It became clear to me that Michael had something to do with these events, and I decided to ask him about it. When Michael returned, I showed him the things I had found and asked him what it all meant. His face changed, and he admitted that his brother was one of the first to disappear years ago. Michael decided to investigate the case on his own after the police closed it. I understood that Michael was not involved in the disappearances, but his personal interest made him suspicious. We decided to join forces and find the real culprit together. Our next step was to find other relatives of the missing and see if they had any information. We met with the sister of one of the disappeared, Alice. She told us that she recently found strange notes in her brother's house. The notes contained addresses and dates that coincided with the places of disappearance. We realized that this could be the key to the solution. We decided to check each address on the list and find any clues. It was dangerous, but we had no other choice. First on the list was an old farm on the outskirts of town where one of the missing once lived. Having arrived at the farm, we began to inspect the territory. Everything looked abandoned, but in one of the storerooms we found suspicious traces. They led to an underground storage room where we discovered an old box with photographs and personal belongings of missing people. In the box, we found a diary that belonged to one of the disappeared. He was describing his pursuer, and it was the same man I had seen. The records indicated that the killer used old abandoned houses as his hideouts. We gave the evidence we found to the police, but they still couldn't do anything. We felt helpless, but we decided not to give up. Next on the list was an abandoned hospital where one of the victims also disappeared. Arriving at the hospital, we began to examine the building. It was dark and eerie, and every sound echoed in the empty corridors. In one of the offices, we found photographs of missing people hanging on the walls like trophies. Among the things, we found an old video camera. After reviewing the tapes, we saw shocking footage of a confession of a man talking about his crimes. It was the same man I saw near my house. He talked about his plans and abused the victims. We realized that we had found important evidence, but we also realized that we could become the next victims. When we decided to leave the hospital, we noticed that someone had locked the door. We were trapped and had no choice but to find another way out. Making our way through the dark corridors, we heard footsteps. It was an unknown man who helped us get out of the building. His name was Jack, and he said he was also looking for a killer. His sister disappeared a few months ago, and he decided to find her on his own. Jack joined us, and we decided to join forces. He had some contacts in the local police who could help us with the investigation. We returned to Michael to discuss our next steps and develop a plan. One evening, while reviewing the surveillance footage, we noticed that one of the cameras picked up a strange signal. It was some kind of code that we couldn't decipher. Jack suggested that this might be a tip from an assassin trying to play with us. We decided to go to one of the addresses that was indicated in the code. It was an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. When we got there, we found traces of a struggle and blood on the floor. We understood that one of the victims was kept here, but she had already been moved to another place. While looking through the items found in the warehouse, we found a cell phone. It had recorded voice messages from the man who was chasing us. He said that he knew everything about us and that we would not be able to stop him. After collecting all the evidence, we contacted the police again. This time we had enough information for them to take the case more seriously. The police began to search for the man, using data from the phone and recordings from cameras. We knew that now the killer would be even more dangerous. He understood that we were approaching him. I began to feel that I was constantly being watched, and every noise made me shudder. We decided that we should be careful and not disclose our plans. We decided to use ourselves as bait to catch the killer. Jack and Michael prepared a plan to bring him to light. I had to pretend I was walking home alone so he would try to chase me again. When I returned home, I noticed that I was being followed. It was the same man. I tried to act natural, but everything inside me was shaking with fear. Jack and Michael were nearby, ready to intervene at any moment. The man approached me and tried to grab me. I started to scream, and at the same moment Jack and Michael rushed to help. A short but violent fight ensued, during which we were able to neutralize him and hand him over to the police in another city to start a new life. It was a new beginning, full of possibilities and hopes. We were ready for all the challenges that awaited us ahead. In my new place, I found a job at a local university. Teaching became my passion, and I was happy to share my knowledge with students. My career took off, and I felt like I was doing something important. Mark and I decided it was time to think about children. We were ready for this important step, and were looking forward to the addition to our family. Our life was full of love and happiness. Our first baby brought us incredible joy. We were happy parents who loved and cared for our child. Every day was a new discovery, and we enjoyed every moment. Parenthood brought new challenges, but we were ready for them. Mark and I supported each other and faced all difficulties together. We were happy and grateful for every moment spent together. Once I received an invitation to a meeting of school graduates. It was an opportunity to meet old friends and share their achievements. I decided to go and find out how other people's lives have changed. At the alumni meeting, I met many old friends and acquaintances. It was a nice throwback, but also a reminder of how much has changed. I felt proud of what I had achieved and happy for my friends. At the meeting, I met new people who shared their stories and achievements. It was an inspiration for me, and I realized that life is full of surprises and possibilities. Each new meeting opened up new horizons. We decided to create a community of alumni to support each other and share experiences. It was a place where we could find support and inspiration. Each meeting reminded us of the importance of friendship and support. One day, we decided to go back to Harpersville and visit the old places. It was an emotional return, full of memories and nostalgia. We realized that this city will forever remain a part of our lives. Returning home gave us new impetus and inspiration. We decided to do something useful for our hometown and organized a charity project to support local residents. This was an important step towards the revival of our community. While working on the project, we met many wonderful people who also wanted to do something useful for the city. We became a real team that supported each other and worked together to achieve a common goal. Our project received recognition and support from local authorities. This was a great achievement for us, and we were glad that our efforts were noticed and appreciated. We continued to work on the project with even greater enthusiasm. Our project began to expand and cover new areas. We attracted many volunteers and partners who helped us in the implementation of our plans. This was an important step towards creating a strong and cohesive community. We also reconnected with the relatives of the missing people and continued to support them. Our meetings became a tradition, and we shared news and achievements. This was an important step towards restoring justice and supporting those who suffered. We received an award for our efforts and contribution to the development of the community. This was a great recognition of our achievements and an incentive for further work. We were proud that we were able to do so much good for our city. Our project opened up new opportunities and perspectives for us. We started working with other organizations and communities to expand our impact and help even more people. This was a great achievement for us. Mark and I decided it was time for another child. We were happy when we found out that I was pregnant. Our family was growing and we were looking forward to the arrival of our second child. The birth of our second child brought us incredible joy and happiness. We were happy parents who loved and cared for our children. Every day was a new discovery and cause for joy. My family and friends have always supported us in difficult times. They were our support and inspiration. We were grateful for their support and love, which helped us overcome all difficulties. My life finally became calm and happy. I learned to live without fear and enjoy every moment. My past was behind me, and I was ready for new challenges and adventures. Our friendships with Jack and Michael have only grown stronger after everything we've been through. We continue to support each other and work together on new projects. Friendship has become an important source of inspiration and support for us. My life finally became stable and calm. I learned to live without fear and enjoy every moment. My past was behind me, and I was ready for new challenges and adventures. Mark and I decided it was time for another child. We were happy when we found out that I was pregnant. Our family was growing, and we were looking forward to the arrival of our second child. The birth of our second child brought us incredible joy and happiness. We were happy parents who loved and cared for our children. Every day was a new discovery and cause for joy. My family and friends have always supported us in difficult times. They were our support and inspiration. We were grateful for their support and love, which helped us overcome all difficulties. My life finally became calm and happy. I learned to live without fear and enjoy every moment. My past was behind me, and I was ready for new challenges and adventures. Our friendships with Jack and Michael have only grown stronger after everything we've been through. We continued to support each other and work together on new projects. Friendship has become an important source of inspiration and support for us. My life finally became stable and calm. I learned to live without fear and enjoy every moment. My past was behind me, and I was ready for new challenges and adventures. Mark and I decided it was time for another child. We were happy when we found out that I was pregnant. Our family was growing, and we were looking forward to the arrival of our second child. The birth of our second child brought us incredible joy and happiness. We were happy parents who loved and cared for our children. Every day was a new discovery and cause for joy. Discovery and cause for joy. Discovery and cause for joy.